Well, morning YouTube or evening YouTube or good day YouTube. Not been around for a while simply because I've been ill. Had a very, very bad bout of flu, which did kind of make me very dizzy, etc. So I was doing very little riding, and when I was riding, obviously I wanted to concentrate that a little bit more. So I didn't do any vlogging for a while. Before I go any further, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Midnight. Hopefully I'll have some questions for you shortly, and you'll have some for me as well. So we'll see how things turn around. Now, topic for today. Now this is a weird one. Time travel. You've all seen like Doctor Who, etc. So is time travel actually feasibly possible? You know, is it just science fiction that all it ever going to be, or is it possible? Now, one of the reasons why it keeps coming up in popular fiction, etc., is time travel possible, is simply down to the case of string theory. Now, I'm not going to go into string theory because it is ridiculously complicated. I don't understand it fully, and I did actually study physics, but only to a fairly basic level, shall we say, and that was many, many years ago. But string theory was developed to explain the holes in our knowledge on gravity, believe it or not. We all know if we throw something up in the air, it, you know, comes back down, and that's gravity basically. Now, gravity is produced by the mass of the planet pulling things towards it. As the planet, i.e. Earth, is pulled towards the sun. Now, everything has its own field of gravity, including you and me. So we can actually pull things toward us, but it's so minuscule, our mass, that the gravity we produce ourselves is so low it won't actually, won't actually have any measurable effect. Now, there are some problems with gravity, as we can't actually predict it 100% as human beings. So this theory was brought out called string theory, which plugs some of those holes in the knowledge of gravity. Now, it is a theory, like most scientific explanations that are, and it hasn't been proven, or there's been no results to prove that string theory works. That's not to say it's doesn't exist or is incorrect, etc. It's just that there hasn't been any experiments and nothing to prove it at the moment. That's what all this CERN experiments and all that lot are for. Antimatter, dark matter and all this lot. But an offshoot of string theory is the possibility of travelling through time. And that's a very, how can we put that? A very wacky offshoot. Now, before string theory came about, we had Einstein, who used to talk about the speed of light, and his theory on time travel was in theory it's not possible, because to be able to travel back in time you would have to exceed the speed of light. Now, under my layman's understanding, that's if you think about how we see things, how we how we can actually see all these cars in the road at the moment, it's because the sun rays or the light is bouncing off them, and our eyeballs are decoding that information to a visual image that we can then see. It's also the way colours work, different light spectrum, etc. So if you could travel at the same speed of light, or exceed the speed of light, you wouldn't be able to see that reflection of the light at the time it's travelling to you. So you would actually, in theory, go back in time. You would actually overtake, whoops, fuck that up, you'd actually overtake and the light that was reflecting off the objects you're looking at. So in theory it would seem or look like you were going back in time. A bit in the same way as you've heard about when the astronauts go out into space, they sometimes, or allegedly, get their older TV programs. So the TV programs that are coming through, or the radio broadcasts that are coming through, are older than what they can actually, or the time frame they're currently in. Now, the same thing happens with us looking up at the planets. You've all learnt when you was at school that when you look at the planets, they're no longer there. So you're seeing the light that's travelling to you, because it's so many light years away. So those planets could have moved, months ago, years ago. So they're no longer in the position that you're currently seeing them in the sky. So in the theory, you're travelling backwards in time by seeing that. So that's Einstein's or my understanding of Einstein's theory on time travel. Now, another thing with string theory is the possibility that, now like I say, this is if, buts, maybes, etc., that time isn't a constant. So we see time as a linear event, i.e. we get born, we grow old, we die. And that's all there is to it. Now, if time wasn't a linear event, this is big F, you could in theory jump between those constructs, shall we say. Now that's the only way I could possibly see time or time travel being available. But if time travel is a possibility, Hawkins has pointed out, is why hasn't it happened? Why haven't we had tourists from the future popping around saying, oh look, this is what they lived like in the 20th century, it was crap after all, stuff like that. So it also brings into the paradoxes of, if I go back in time to kill Hitler, for example, because he was a nasty man and he caused a lot of innocent people to die, so I go back in time, I kill Hitler, and via that very circumstances of events I would have stopped my dad from meeting my mum, because my dad was in the army, he met my mum that way, blah 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 blah. So I would have stopped that meeting, thus I would not have existed, and then I could not go on back in time to kill Hitler. So there's all these sort of paradoxes as well. And can you physically be in the same place as yourself? So can you go back in time to an earlier point of time where you actually exist and be in the same place twice? That gets a bit messy. So I kind of like Einstein's theory. So travelling back in time with Einstein's theory is, if you exceed the speed of light, you could see a representation of time travel, i.e. a recording. But if you travel back in the speed of light in the same spot, I don't think that's going to work, sort of thing. So you're only going to see a sort of representation, recording of that event. Now that would explain, if time travel was possible, to find some way to use or to complete it using that theory, is you would only be seeing the event, you wouldn't be able to interact with it. So, maybe that's where ghosts come from, who knows. But it's just something that's been bugging me and playing around in my head for the last sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on a learner driver behind me. It's just been bugging me for the last few days, and I've been reading up on all this stuff, and it's just thought I'd share that. And here's a question for you lot. If you could go back in time, now there's a big if, what time period would you go back to and why? Now it's not, remember we're saying that you can't interact with that time period, you can just go for the view, you can't actually do anything when you get there. So just to have a look at what's happening. So have a think about that one. Post below, thumbs up as usual, because you all love me, you know it, and I'll see you on the next vlog.